Olga Diaz is the first Latina or Hispana, or however you want to call her. She can call herself whatever she wants. Elected to the Escondido City Council. Escondido is a city of about 100,000 people. It now, according to the census, is about 50% Hispanic, and she's the very first one. And there she is every week, sometimes on the end, a short end of a 4-to-1 vote, but she's there, she's representing the community. She told me when we first met that the first time she ran, she had no idea what she was doing, and she almost won the first time, as I recall. Escondido has traditionally been a farm community, and therefore it's always had a large Hispanic population, but they were pretty much hidden. In other words, they were not up front like they are today, where whole neighborhoods are Hispanic. Olga Diaz blesses us with her presence originally from Salinas, as I recall. She went to the University of Santa Clara, which is a Jesuit school in Northern California, which also produced Edmund G. Pat Brown Jr., the current governor of California, and occasionally has a decent basketball team that plays our University of San Diego every year. They're in the same league. And she brings to us her degree as an accountant. So if anyone's going to watch our tax dollars, it's going to be Olga Diaz. Olga, do you enjoy being a public official, elected official?
I do now. I didn't seek the attention. I decided to run for office because I was angry enough to pay attention to what was going on. And so politics is really sort of a sidebar of what my life was and will be. I wanted to go back to the Santa Clara University comment because we also produced Leon Panetta and Janet Napolitano.
Oh, that's right. I forgot those two. As a matter of fact, Leon beat me out for a job. Believe it or not.
Did he?
In 1963, he had just finished law school at the University of Santa Clara, and we were both up for a job with the United States Senator Thomas Kuchel in Washington, in the mailroom, which is how you get started in those days. And Leon Panetta beat me out for that job.
And look at him now, right?
Yeah.
You should have tried a little harder.
Director of the CIA, potentially the Secretary of Defense.
Right. So running for office in Escondido was actually very much an accident in my life. I owned a coffee house. I was perfectly happy to just bop around my life. I had a degree in accounting, but that's such a lifeless job that I left Pricewaterhouse and I ended up at Santa Clara University in a research department. And then after a few years, I ended up owning a coffee house because it sounded so charming to own a small business. Of course, 8 years later, my brother has kept the business and I've moved on to other things. But running for office really was something that I had never planned to do. I had always been a fairly responsible voter. I read all of the campaign material for candidates and I always made sure to vote. But getting myself on the ballot was an entirely different issue. And the reason I ran for office in Escondido in the first place was because there was some terrible, very anti-immigrant, divisive policies proposed by the city council. And up until that point, I didn't really know what a city council was, what it does, what kind of impact it had on me as a resident of Escondido. I had never paid attention to politics in any other place that I had lived before I moved to Escondido. So my attention was really captured by a council majority of 3 who represented something so opposite of anything I ever thought I could experience in California. Let me give you an example. When they pushed forward this policy, it was called a rental ban ordinance. Anybody who lived in Escondido and wanted to rent a place to live, whether it be a house, an apartment, would have to prove their legal residency in this country. And in a Latino community, we know that sometimes families are blended, not intentionally. It's not that anybody's a bad person, just the way that our communities and our culture have evolved. And so it made it very difficult to be Latino in Escondido and not be thought of as undocumented. And objecting to that kind of policy made us collectively lawless in the eyes of many. Like the Minutemen, there was no Tea Party at the time, but there were those roots. And so what I did was I ran for office. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know about precinct walking, fundraising, mailing material. I had some pictures. I got a graphic artist. I winged it. And I did it on a whim. So in 3 months' time from when I got my name on the ballot, because I didn't see that there was another candidate I could support, I got my name on the ballot, and election day, I came in 3rd, and I needed to be 1st or 2nd, right? So I was just right out of the money. And I just kept running. And so for the next 2 years, I did not let up. I didn't give up because at this point now, I realized, in fact, it was Logan Jenkins, was the first person who ever told me, he works for the Union Tribune. Actually, in our first interview, he said, do you know why it's important that you win? And I gave him all this stuff about, I'm going to change the world and fix Escondido and community and, volunteerism and all this stuff. And he says, no, it's because you would be the first Hispanic elected in the history city, and I didn't know that. And so I hold the title, but I wasn't after the title. And it has made a huge difference. Again, I kept running. I won in 2008, the same year that President Obama was elected. He won his election in 5 minutes. It took me until 4 in the morning to overcome some of the voter results. And so, yes, I happened to be the first Hispanic elected in the city of Escondido in 2008.
Now that's important.
Yes.
And I recall that when I first went on the radio in Cogo here in San Diego, the first Hispanic talk show host in San Diego, the reporter from the Union, who was assigned to write a big story, we had a big picture and everything, and he said, "Why is that important to be the first?" I said, "Because it's the first." And I want to say "you moron," but he's writing the story, so I didn't. They don't. People,
Good call.
Logan Jenkins was right. It's not whether you're good or bad or anything else. It's you're the first. Now you will always be the first, and that's what we're doing with this America's Live Network. Olga will be doing a regular show live. People, her constituents and others, can call in and ask her questions. I was going to ask you some questions, but I think you sort of covered why you ran for office and all that. And so now I think we just can look forward to your program regularly on America's Live Network. Thanks.
Well, thank you. I hope to add to the conversation.